the chat for you guys if you want to go ahead and RSVP, as well as our Women in Leadership event coming up in the few weeks. As well, if you guys want to introduce yourselves in the comment section. And we also have a section for a Q&A. If you guys want to drop questions directed towards our panelists, that'd be totally great. And they will answer those at the end of the call today. And I'm going to pass it off to our other moderator, Meg, who is going to be leading the conversation.
Hi, everyone. My name is Meg Krieger. I'm a workforce development specialist here at Educate Maine on the Maine Career Catalyst team. Really looking forward to guiding this conversation today about winding career paths, hoping that by the end of this webinar, you'll all see that successful careers often involve lots of unexpected opportunities and transitions, and learn some strategies in terms of adapting to different opportunities as they come, and hearing from our wonderful panelists today about what their experiences have been like to lead them to their careers today. So really excited to get started. Just as a reminder for everyone, the chat is open. So as Henry said, feel free to drop in your name, where you work. That would be great just to see who's joining us today. And then you'll see there's a Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. As the conversation flows, feel free to drop some questions into the Q&A section. We're going to leave about 15-20 minutes at the end of the conversation to respond to audience questions. So drop those in throughout, and we'll give you another reminder as the conversation goes on. But super excited to have our panelists introduce themselves and then to get into the conversation. So just going in order of my screen, Abby.
Good afternoon, everybody. Nice to meet you all, and thank you all for having me. I'm excited to talk to you today and speak with you all. I'm Abbey Pearson. I'm the Chief Financial Officer and Human Resources Officer for Enercon Technologies. We are located in Gray, Maine. We've been in business about 46 years, and we're a contract manufacturer that mostly supplies products to the medical device space. Nice to meet you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Abby. Melissa, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Melissa McManus. I'm the Director of Workforce Development with MaineHealth. I've been part of the MaineHealth family for 10 years now, and I'm seeing all these pop-ups come up rapidly, and I've seen some MaineHealth interns on here, so really excited to see you, but also grateful for the opportunity to connect with so many other amazing interns. So thank you.
Thanks, Melissa. And last but not least, Leigh.
Hey everyone, my name's Leigh Henderson. I'm a director at IDEXX, where I lead the global planning team as well as our main materials management team. I've been at IDEXX 12 years, and my team is really responsible for making sure that all of our veterinarians have what they need when they need it, and that our manufacturing operations have the same. And looking forward to talking to everyone today.
Wonderful. Well, to kick things off and just kind of provide some context, a baseline for this whole conversation, would love to hear from all of you. When you were in college or early in your career, what did you think your professional path was going to look like, and how different might that be from where you ended up today? Maybe we'll start with Leigh for that one.
Sure. I can share that my career path did not look like what I thought it would. I went to school as a mechanical engineer. I went to graduate school as a material science engineering and was a metallurgist for some time. And I envisioned myself as really chasing every opportunity, and wanting to move all over the country and follow the best job that I could find. And as I moved on in my education, I realized I think I really enjoy New England. And as I got a little bit older, I realized I really valued my family maybe more than I had originally realized. And so rather than looking at just one aspect of maybe the best company or the best job, I think I took a much more holistic view at what I really needed to find a satisfying career and be able to enjoy other aspects of my life. And then I don't do any engineering anymore, but what I found is supply chain. Why I really enjoy it is it's still about how do the pieces fit together and what's the process. And I think that that's what drew me to engineering in the first place.
That makes a lot of sense. Melissa, what about you?
Yeah, so I think my career journey has been very interesting in the fact that I actually have a studio art degree with a focus in photography. So I thought I was going to be a photographer. I grew up in Central Maine, and in all fairness, I didn't have a lot of exposure to different work opportunities. My father owned car dealerships. My mom did not work. We didn't really talk about career pathing at that time, and at school, same. So moved to Portland after school, found that photography wasn't really going to be my long-term goal, but through journeys of different careers, found passions in operations and staffing, joined MaineHealth. I've had 6 roles in 10 years here, starting as an individual contributor, as a nursing recruiter. I found an incredible mentor here who recently retired, but she's led me through an incredible opportunity to really understand where my strengths are. And through my journeys here, I've had 4 different roles in being an HR director, inclusive of a stride director, working for our chief people officer to reorg our HR model, had an opportunity to oversee talent acquisition. I was a strategy director to support the practices for our ambulatory practices within MaineHealth. So I had the opportunity to work with our physician leaders, and just over a year ago had the chance to jump in as a director of workforce development. This is hopefully a position I stay in because it's really filling my cup, and it's definitely a huge passion of mine to connect with others and create opportunities. So definitely not where I thought I'd be when I was 20.
That's awesome. Yeah, definitely winding. And Abby, what about you?
Sure. So similarly, I grew up in actually Orono, Maine, and in high school loved English actually. So I'd never thought that I would be in finance or accounting, in high school, and then went to the University of Maine, and after kind of trying to figure out what I wanted to major in, I had a good conversation with my mom, who actually wasn't in finance either, but she had some clients that did accounting, and she always thought that maybe that I would like that. So I ended up majoring in accounting, and wasn't I didn't love it, but I really loved the other aspect of business. I think similar, I think to Leigh on kind of like process and how things work. And then graduating, I started interviewing for different opportunities, and again, thought I wanted to leave Maine right after school, being, growing up in Orono and then going to school at UMaine. But realized after interviewing how Portland was a great city. And so I wound up down there in public accounting. And then when I was in public accounting, what was great is I got all kinds of opportunity to see what different industries there were out there for auditing. So you have, healthcare industry, energy, manufacturing. And I quickly fell in love with manufacturing and how things worked and whatnot. And from there, I ended up, be kind of starting in a real tactical role, but kind of through some progression in different roles, have really, really progressed on the strategy side. And so some really great experiences were, for manufacturing, especially as being in a plant, and really being on the floor and really seeing how the numbers tie to the operations. And so I've kind of veered off in several instances along my career, got into retail for a little bit, got into construction for a little bit, but always have found my way back to manufacturing. Um, and most recent role, I've been here about 6 years now, or 5.5 years, is Enercon. And I think we'll talk a little bit more on kind of that new challenge of adding human resources to my role. That was a new thing for me, but it's honestly been probably the greatest honor and pleasure of my career. So I'm looking forward to talking about that a little bit more. So.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing. And it's cool to see the different themes come out of like individual conversations that you had or thinking about geography. Obviously, we spend a lot of time throughout this program talking about like what working in Maine is like and what opportunities there are available here. So very interesting to see how that's kind of woven throughout each of your stories as well. Curious to hear if someone has a pivotal moment, an unexpected opportunity, or a detour, so to speak, that has significantly influenced your career journey.
I'd be happy to take that one, Meg. Sure. So this is really two moments to share actually that just influence, I think, my outlook on how I approach my career journey. So the first one was in my early 20s, and I had just graduated from grad school and started a new role with a company as a material scientist. And I had a wonderful manager, and we had, like every company does, some challenges within the organization. And during my performance review, my manager mentioned that he would really like to see me work more collaboratively with others and get along with so and so. And I burst into tears during my performance review. And it was a really hard message for me to receive. And ultimately, though, it was very impactful in a positive way. So two things. First, it was a total mindset shift for me where I came from school and it was about getting the best grades and I wanted to be the smartest and I wanted to get the A's. And that was what I needed to do to succeed in school. And I realized then that those aren't the same things that would allow me to be successful in the workforce. So in order to implement things and get things done, I needed to work more collaboratively. And the other one was I said to myself at the time, if I ever become a manager, I'll never surprise anybody with feedback during a performance review, because that was the first time my manager had ever mentioned that to me. So the value of timely and specific feedback, I think, is something I've carried through to have those maybe difficult but very important discussions early on and frequently. And I'm still in touch with my manager from that time, and he was a great manager all along. But that was really, really powerful for me to see the way it was important for me to work with others. And my second moment was actually early on at IDEXX, and this time I had a positive performance review, and one of the vice presidents wrote a 1/1 comment, and he wrote, "Leigh, don't forget to have fun." And at the time, I thought, like, oh, that's kind of a easy way out. That's an easy comment. And then I realized that actually was something that I needed to hear, that being at work and getting the job done, even if I was working with nicely with others, there's so much more enjoyment that can come when I'm having fun in my role, and it helps others to have fun or enjoy themselves as well. So those didn't necessarily change, I think, that necessarily the job that I'm doing, but certainly helped me to enjoy myself more and just appreciate others and the way that we all need to work together.
Yeah, absolutely. And it sounds like some of those pieces of feedback certainly have stayed with you as you've grown in different
Very
leadership
much so.
roles and management opportunities. So yeah, really interesting to hear about how like the feedback and the conversations that you have within a role or within an organization continue to build your career there. Or maybe you decide to make different decisions depending on how that goes. Um, Wonderful. Many students feel a bunch of pressure to have their careers figured out early. So curious to hear from you, looking back, what advice you would give your younger self about career planning and uncertainty.
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in on this. I think it's important that you realize you're not going to have all the answers now, and you're going to have opportunities presented to you at different times in your career. And I would just suggest take those opportunities. Um, even if it's an opportunity to chat with someone about what they do, even if it's a completely different field of what you're interested in, just for that exposure. Um, I also think I would make sure I was a little bit more curious and did more research along the way. It's interesting. I'm in my early 40s, and I have friends that are like looking to find new careers or looking to do new roles or want to learn about new jobs, and they don't know how to do that. And they're professionals, even leaders in the community. And I think I try to understand what it is to be a job seeker and how to find out resources and create opportunities for learning about different careers for yourself, whether it's exploring different organizations in a geographic area that you're interested in living in, networking on LinkedIn, talking to family, friends, anyone. It's just creating those exposure opportunities for yourself. I think most people, even though you're constantly hearing from leaders how busy they are, they want people to succeed and they will make time for you. So don't be hesitant to do that. So I think looking back, I wish I had kind of had that confidence to ask more questions.
Yeah, I love that. I feel like it's a good reminder for all of us, but I think interns in particular, you're in a really unique circumstance where it's like really part of your job to ask questions and to be curious. And sometimes people forget what you might know or what you might not know yet. So it's a great opportunity to ask all of the questions that you want, whether of your direct supervisors or folks in other departments, anyone that you're curious about. You kind of like with your title as intern, you can ask a bunch of questions. And people want to see that sort of interest in their different jobs or in the organization. So it's gonna be a positive effect. Um, Sort of similarly, curious about what other skills, mindsets, or habits have helped you successfully navigate new responsibilities or career transitions.
Sure, I can jump in on that.
Perfect.
So, I've been thinking about this, kind of this webinar quite a bit, and something that, I think I can boil it down to, don't let fear get the best of you. And I say that from a place of learning and kind of learning from things that I wish I would have done differently and that I've carried forward and learning from. So examples are don't be afraid to ask questions. Early on in my career, I was burned several times in my public accounting career for not raising my hand and asking questions either from sorry uh, we have our lights can if we sit still too long they shut off, so sorry. But early on in my career, I was burned several times by not asking questions, and learned how important it was to seek clarity. If you don't understand something, I was afraid of looking stupid or afraid of failing. So I would say, don't be afraid to ask questions. Don't be afraid to raise your hand for opportunities that might push you, outside of your comfort zone, but could really help you and benefit the company to take something on. Don't be afraid to walk away from something if you know it's a bad situation. I've learned that as well through my journey. But I'd say, really, yeah, letting fear get the best of you isn't something you want to hold on to. So that's what I would. That's if I had to boil it down to one thing, skill. That would be something to talk through.
Yeah, I like that advice a lot. I feel like we don't hear a lot of people in leadership positions talking about things that they were afraid of or just like acknowledging that there are a lot of scary aspects of learning new things and finding yourself in new opportunities. So yeah, very cool to hear you talk about that. And I'm sure will resonate with a lot of folks and hopefully empower people to raise their hands and all of those things. Leigh, yeah.
Can I add on to Abby's, which is mine is actually quite similar, Abby. And I have two to share that I use to this day. One of them is that being ready is a decision and not a feeling. And so there have been many times when I've felt like if I could only do this one more thing, or if I only knew this, or I need a bit more time, and to realize that I just need to make a decision that I will probably never feel ready for some of these leaps of faith or trying new things. And that if others around me, my manager thinks that this is a good fit for me, maybe he or she sees something in myself that I don't. And so to try to have courage and just say, I am ready for this. And then the second one, again, probably related to some fear or lack of confidence, is when I'm in my mind nervous about something, instead of what ifing myself and saying, what if this happens? What if this happens? What if this happens? I just have changed those words to say, even if this happens. And it just helps me to reframe from imagining things coming at me. When I use the words even if, I sort of imagine myself walking forward and saying, well, even if this goes wrong, I will still blank, or even if this happens, I can blank. And it just gets me to solution space instead of worry space. And I've been in my role now 5 years, and I definitely still have moments where I think, what if this happens? And I have to pause and say, well, even if this happens, here's what we can do.
Yeah, and when you think about, how many failures have really shaped your path, right? And how without those failures and without stepping out and even with being afraid, um, how you would have maybe ended up somewhere else. So it's a it's a pretty powerful one. So
Yeah, I really like that. I feel like a lot of times like advice and feedback is sort of like big picture or like specific to different stories and narratives. So I really like that specific vocabulary that we can have in our heads, just like that little switch up of from what if to even if. I feel like that's definitely gonna stick with me. It's hard not to get stressed out by little things. And then even when we know that we have the capability and the resources to problem solve, should something come up, you still want it to go well. So it's nice to kind of do that switch up. I like that a lot. Um, so the next question that I have, a little bit different. Have you ever pursued a role, a project, or an opportunity that felt outside your comfort zone? What was it, and what did you learn from that experience?
sure. So I'll take that one, and I think it flows very well from the last conversation of the even if something goes wrong. So for me, it was taking on the HR role and the strategy of HR here at Enercon when I first came into the role. So I've grown up again in the finance vein of my career, and very comfortable in leading an organization through financial strategy and change. But something that we had identified as part of the interview process and as part of the role is they wanted somebody to take the HR function, which had been highly compliance driven, to a strategic place. And although I had not led any HR or strategy, people, talent strategy before, I lived one pretty intimately in a prior role, and partnered very well. I had a great HR leader there, and partnered with her. And so I said to myself, well, this is a little scary, but even if it doesn't go perfectly, I know that I have a great network to reach out to and rely on to help me. Um, and and I think your other question is kind of what did I learn through this? Is I've been doing this for 6 years, and we've had quite a transformation here at Enercon within our talent group. Everything from centralizing our recruiting process to rolling out talent planning and strategy, to career pathing with our people. So and I've led that effort. I also have two really great teams under me, or that I work with, my HR and finance teams, and it's been just an honor to be part of it. So, and yeah, so.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing. And going off script a little bit here, but as you were answering that question, I was thinking of another question, which is sort of along the same vein. And when you had that opportunity, Abby, maybe you can start and other folks can jump in. How did you know, or what made you feel like it was the right time to pursue that sort of that new opportunity, and maybe new opportunity in terms of like a promotion or responsibilities added to your role, or for all of you when you've made different decisions and chosen to pursue new opportunities versus staying the course? How did you know that that felt like the right time for you? And can you share any advice on that mindset?
Yeah, it really came with, one of the things that, I've really learned along my career and kind of being in business in the state of Maine is it's really all about the people that you meet, network with, work for, that really, I think, can make or break an experience for people. And, at the time, the vision that the CEO, that my current boss, but CEO and ownership had of what they wanted things to look like in the future for finance and for the HR strategy stand up really resonated with me. And the I guess, relationship that was created early on in the interview process. And then, Enercon checked a lot of boxes for me in terms of contract manufacturing and manufacturing in general. I'm staying close, staying in Maine. So using the talents and skills that acquired, through education is kind of giving back to the state. And so that's always been something that I've been keen on. And so it all just really resonated with me so I think several things for me that kind of were all kind of falling in line to help me make that decision.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Wonderful. So yeah, we've talked about different career paths and how you all didn't end up exactly where you started. For interns who may not end up working in the exact field they studied in school, how can they leverage their internships and other early professional experiences as they go on to explore different career paths?
Yeah, I'm happy to chat about that. Um, I think every work experience prepares you for your next opportunity. And I think transitional skills are something that people really need to be considerate of. And I, I always use the example of someone that's like in customer service, maybe in high school or in college, who's, maybe you're working in a restaurant, you're serving, like such great exposure, especially if then you want to transition into working with patient care. You have that experience with working with different personalities. Um, you know, if you're working in an office setting right now in the financial field, but I mean, look at Abbey going from taking the lead in finance and also taking on human resources. Those are two very different fields, but extremely similar when you think about the formula for strategy in regards to business and operations. There's so many skills that Abby has built along her career in education that has made her more than prepared to be in her role. So I think Abby, you're an excellent example of that. Meeting you and hearing your story.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I think it's important that you're looking at all of your experiences. Volunteering experiences are really important too. I don't want I think sometimes individuals early in their career aren't necessarily thinking about what they're learning and how that can build upon. So I think that's really important. I think also just the fact that you're in an intern experience, and again, if it might be in a different field, I just want to really stress the point of take this opportunity to request informational interviews, request opportunities to shadow. Maybe it's with different departments. Just lean upon the supervisor or manager you have right now to see what ideas they have that might help you to guide you in the direction you're going. Um, yeah, and just stress again that asking questions piece.
Yeah, that's really good advice. Um, as we move into some of our final questions for the whole group here, just want to remind everyone listening and watching to go ahead and ask any of your own questions in the chat. This can be a question for one of our panelists individually about like something that they've shared about any of their career pivots or changes or decisions that they've made, or just to this like larger general questions if you're looking for advice as you think about the long career ahead of you. So encourage you all to pop some questions in the Q&A, but we've got a few more questions up our sleeve for you all. So before we move into that, to our sort of rapid fire final advice question, I have a question for you guys, which is I feel like something that I think about as I'm obviously earlier in my career is thinking about like what parts of my job that I think are fun, that are like that I feel like just align well with skills that I naturally have or skills that come up and have come up during my like academic career or in the rest of my life. And I'm just curious if there's a part of the work that you get to do, whether it's interacting with people or spending time being creative, that sort of thing, that is like a favorite part of your job that you seek out in new job opportunities or maybe has helped you make some of those decisions?
I'm happy to jump in. Working in human resources, I am someone that just my energy thrives off of other people. I love learning about other people. I want to know everything in my personal life. There's like, I think 6 or 7 marriages due to me, like networking people. There's wonderful babies in this world because I love that. Like, it's just like it's a natural thing for me is to network people. And in my career in HR, I've had the opportunity to just get to know so many individuals. I used to work in agency staffing, and it just brings so much joy to me to help people get to where they want to go. So I think this role is such a natural fit for me because I get the opportunity to collaborate with people, learn from people, hopefully help people along the way too. And I would say that the icing on the cake for me is the fact that I get to do this work in healthcare where I'm helping our communities. And, one day someone that I've led to become a nurse might end up taking care of me or my son or someone else that really matters to me. So I just sincerely love my job.
That's awesome. Thank you. That was a great answer.
I can add that as I mentioned, I went to school for engineering, so I'm very data-driven, process-driven person. And I really look for roles or opportunities where I can connect the work of my team, my work, with all sorts of different metrics to our purpose and the community or the customers that we're impacting. So in my current role for planning and distributing our products all over the world, just understanding some of the products that IDEXX manufactures and how how they impact things is just fascinating to me, and being able to see, oh, this decision that our team made, or this process improvement that our team made allows medicine to be delivered faster to this location in Australia or in New Zealand. So finding a role and a company that has, I think, like really broad reaching um, influence, that I can understand how my role is connected to the end customer, even if I'm a little removed from the end customer, because I think a commercial role is probably not the right one for me, but I do love to understand who the customer is.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Looking at the end product, I feel like is another good way to connect into what good roles are might be for you. Abby.
Yeah, so some similarities with Melissa and Leigh. I would say people. So for me, it is I naturally gravitate more towards the people and human side of things. And so similar to Melissa, I really thrive off trying to help people and be able to be in a position where I can make a positive impact on our employees' lives. In the work we're doing. And so that really resonates with me. So I really enjoy that. Um, and I love the variety, to be honest, the variety, because, I can also be very much in a spreadsheet, and I love numbers and data and analytics and spreadsheets as well. But also seeing the teams that I work with that work for me grow, as they're given opportunities, because I can't be at the lowest level of detail like I like to be. And so being able to empower my team and help lead my team into growth opportunities for themselves is, for me, it really is all about the people and the impact that we make through largely what we manufacture, which is medical device, and it's, ultimately helping save lives. And then also adding to the community, because if you think about it, you have, so many folks that work for you, but you multiply that by their families. And so you're really responsible for a pretty significant amount of community that you want to see thrive. So it's that whole, being in the state of Maine, giving back to the state, and, making sure a lot of folks in the state have great, ample opportunity to make money and provide for their families. And then lastly, I would say my role really is pretty also well-rounded as I'm very much into the strategy and commercial side of things. So I really touch everything between both roles. So I have a unique kind of position where I can really look across the business. So I really thrive in working with the other senior leaders within their different realms of responsibility. And it's pretty cool. So I would also say I love, love, love my job.
That's wonderful. Yeah, thank you guys for sharing. Feel like it's hopefully helpful for people who are listening who are starting to think about like midway through their internships. What do they like? What don't they like? What might they be seeking out in future careers? And I know that's been really helpful for me as I think about career navigation. And I think it's always fun to hear why people love their jobs when you get to hear from people who do love their jobs. So thank you for sharing. Um, so the sort of rapid fire question for all of you, a little piece of wisdom before we move into audience questions. If an intern leaves this summer with only one takeaway about building a successful and fulfilling career, what would you want it to be? No pressure at all. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah,
Leigh,
I can
take it away.
answer. Mine would be to take all the opportunities that your company is offering you as an intern to just to learn things and be exposed to things this summer. So if you have a training opportunity and you think, I already know about that topic, maybe you do. And so maybe what you learn during that training opportunity is not necessarily what the teacher is teaching. Be observant of other things. I would take the same training if offered. I would take it again and again because you always learn something new. And it might not be from the teacher. It might not be on the topic that's, in the title, but it could be from your peers. It could be from the questions that are asked. And so always be curious and be open to learning.
Love that.
Aligned with what Leigh just shared, I would say reflect on your experience and like allow yourself some space. The world we're in is just constantly moving and we're always on to the next and checking boxes and getting things done. But really reflect on the work that you've accomplished. What was challenging from that? What did you learn from it? And what is your like actual response to that? Because that's how you're going to learn where you enjoy doing and what you don't enjoy doing. And that's going to help guide you into the work that you end up in. Um, I've had an opportunity in my journey here where I was in a role that really just completely challenged me. I I look back on that time and I'm like, oh my goodness, how did I do that? But what I gained from that experience has just prepared me more and more for as I continue to venture into the workplace every single day. So I think really just take time to reflect, I think is what I'm trying to say.
Wonderful.
So for me, I think it's a very similar, message as I had a little bit earlier, which is don't let fear get the best of you in doing some of these things, reflecting, taking a pause instead of charging forward, um, being afraid to raise your hand to learn more opportunities, but um, push yourself to either take the time to reflect, because I think some people have instances and um, you know, habits where they want to just rush into the next thing and not take the time and take the opportunity if you're given it, or if you're not given it, raise your hand and say, I want that opportunity. So I think don't let fear hold you back on things that you want to go for or not.
Wonderful. Well, thank you guys. Really good advice. We'll move on for the next 20 or so minutes into some of the questions that have been coming in from the audience. So folks, feel free to continue asking questions in the Q&A box. We may not get to all of them today, but you'll have an opportunity to reach out, of course, later if we don't answer all of the questions today. Um, I think the most recent question that just came in, I think, fits really well with this conversation. So I want to start there. What do you do if you find yourself landing a role that you really wanted, but then don't enjoy it as much as you thought you would? And kind of back to that question of when do you know you need to make a change? And feel free to just sort of unmute yourselves, answer as you wish, whatever pieces of wisdom you all might have.
I can answer that one. I've had this experience. Um, so I had this experience at IDEXX actually. And what I found is I needed to listen to what my body was telling me, my feelings were telling me about how I was feeling about work. I wasn't as excited. And let me just go to the question again, make sure I'm answering directly. And so I would say be able to reflect and say, hey, this isn't what I thought it would be. I'm not enjoying myself. And seek out your manager and just be honest. And again, early on, don't let this fester, but to say, hey, I'm doing my absolute best here. I will continue to do my absolute best while I'm in this role. Ultimately, I don't think this is the right role for me, and here's why. And I remember being very nervous to have that conversation with my manager. And my manager was shocked. They said, "You're doing such a great job. What do you mean you're not enjoying yourself?" And I said, "I'm doing my best, but it's just it's not in my heart." And my manager ultimately was very supportive to find me a role and said, "We don't want you to leave IDEXX, so hang in there. Let's work on what opportunities are available for you." So I'd say be honest and listen to yourself. And that it is very valuable to know what you don't enjoy just as much as it is to know what you do enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Um, Another question, how do you balance unchecked and at times impulsive wanderlust, both in the sense of like actually traveling and trying out being in new places, but also for new roles or exciting opportunities with having a stable career? Like you guys are getting like hardcore like advice questions, which I'm loving, versus like specific tactical professional questions, but I think that's kind of in the vein of this conversation. So would love to hear thoughts.
I'm actually looking for the question again. Where is it?
It's at the top of the open Q&A section.
Unchecked and at times impulsive. So I've had this, the main finance pool, I guess, is in terms of jobs and opportunities is relatively small. So a lot of times it's common as you kind of grow in your career and if you're successful that you'll get a lot of kind of recruiting folks, especially I think depending on the market where folks are want to, you're always getting enticed by, and I think you can say this about any area of your life, but you're always getting enticed by the next shiny object. And I think it's really important to distill between am I excited if there is a new opportunity that comes my way? What's exciting me about what is exciting? So distilling what's really exciting about it versus where you are. And if you genuinely like where you are and you feel like you're growing in that, like what's the difference? And if there is opportunity where you think you could grow, raise your hand, have a conversation to continue that career path potentially where you currently are, then that is a path. If you get an opportunity your way that really just kind of you see a growth path that you maybe didn't see at your current job, then I think that's an opportunity to explore it further. I've done that. So I've grown through moving. I haven't stayed in one place for 20 years, and I think that is very common these days with the workforce, but also kind of for where I am now. When there's, if there's opportunity that comes my way, it really is just really trying to distill. This is what like this is what you are, really excited about. And then if there's other opportunities, it's really comparing what you currently are at, so really trying to distill, I guess, and just, to boil it down, distill where you are versus the opportunity and try to go from there. But jumping to every shiny object isn't really always great. So.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. We have a similar question, sort of along the same thought process, maybe, which is for the three of you, have you ever struggled to balance career passion with stability? And maybe no.
I guess I'll answer. I don't think I'm very much someone who I'm very planful and I have to like know where, my next paycheck's coming from. And I'm always a planner and a saver and all those aspects. And so I've never really been spontaneous in that sense. But then I have this amazing group of friends who are very different than me. And they talk about wanderlust, just like seasonally travel. And they've chosen careers that they know they can do the work anywhere in the world. And somehow they always magically find this wonderful job. And they always land on their feet and they are, so I just think you have to know who you are and know what you're comfortable with. I think I'm kind of off the question a little bit, but yeah.
No, it's great. Um, and maybe a similar version of, or a different version of the same question, which we also got in the chat, which is coming from an intern who shares, as someone who tends to feel a lot of pressure around academics and career planning, what advice would you give on balancing trust in your drive and passion, no matter what path you take, with the reality of today's competitive job market? So I think there's this like overall theme of like, how do you balance like the planning and the academic pressure and the like wanting to have a certain have a reliable, stable career with like maybe if your drive and passion is different, and if you're being pulled in different directions, how do you make those decisions? I don't know if anyone has any super sage wisdom on that front.
I mean, I think it goes maybe back to something I said earlier about learning from everything, even if it isn't what you thought you might learn. So in the competitive job market, I mean, don't take if you apply for a job and you don't get it, don't hopefully your takeaway message is not like I'm not good enough for this job. That's not the takeaway. Learn something from it, reframe, and try again. I think I hear sometimes the message like what's meant to be will be, or oh, it just wasn't meant to be. Sometimes I have a hard time with that message. It doesn't always resonate with me. But what does resonate with me is like, okay, what can I learn from this and get up and try again, and to
Right.
not take it as a failure or something that's finite. It is just a part of the process, and you can find something to learn from it.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Yeah, and I think where you can be planful, to kind of play off what Leigh said or dovetail into that, is where you can be planful is in the learning, and understanding, and distilling. And it kind of goes back to really trying to distill and kind of get to the crux of like, why is this, you know, however I'm feeling, really trying to kind of be self-aware enough to be able to distill why you want to move someplace or go somewhere else, or what's, keeping you from applying to that next job, and really kind of honing your self-awareness, to then be okay with it, even if this doesn't work, or even if I fail, how am I going to move forward to the next either opportunity or that conversation that I'm a little bit of afraid to have within my workspace because I thought this was going to go different than it did. So again, maybe a little off the overall question, but it comes back to what we've kind of said collectively.
Yeah, absolutely.
Meg, can I just add too? I think a lot of, I know this is a leadership panel, um, and I'm hearing, academic and career pressures. I think our success, the society is usually saying achievement, 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 and there's a stereotype to what that achievement is, and it's, climbing that corporate ladder or whatever that means. I think people need to really reflect on what that mean, what they actually want, because there is so much impact to roles exist because there's a need for it. And there is value to the work that is done in every position that's created. So I think people really just, I want to take that sort of pressure off. And, I know at the end of the day, those bills just keep coming and so on and so forth. So it's usually associated with dollar value and so on. But I I just think it's really important for people to step back and reflect on what's important to them. How can they explore different careers and opportunities? And once I was mentoring an individual, and I hope it's appropriate. I won't share the individual's name. They said to me that they wanted to be a leader, and I asked why, and they didn't really have an answer to that. And I think when you're thinking about growth And becoming a leader, that can mean being a people leader, which comes with, it can be, my team's amazing, so I don't have this, but it can be very challenging at times. So I think when you're thinking about climbing that ladder and becoming a people leader, there's a lot to reflect. So I just want to say that out loud. Every job has a value or it would not exist.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the advice of like remembering to ask yourself the question of like why, like not trying to advance for the sake of advancing, but thinking about like what the job would actually be like and back to like what do you like to do and what are the skills that you enjoy. So that's great. And in that answer, Melissa, you mentioned you had that conversation with someone you were mentoring. Someone has asked us a question about how you recommend going about developing a mentorship relationship. So I'm curious if you all, as leaders at your various organizations, have had folks approach you to form some successful mentorship relationships, if you have your own mentors, and how that came about, because I feel like that can be really impactful and pivotal as interns maybe seek folks at their organizations to continue to have conversations like this with.
Yeah, so I've had mentors and I've mentored and I have mentored. I've had mentors, and I think some of it's dependent on I think where you are in terms of your place of work and what type of program they have. Some places have formal mentorship programs, others don't. And sometimes it comes more organically, like if you're working with a leader. One of my mentors used to be my boss at another place of business, but I have used him many times as a sounding board in my role at Enercon. And so, and then I've had folks where I've been assigned, I've been assigned as a mentor for folks, 20 years ago, but I still mentor now, even when I was younger, and it was more of a relationship. But I think, to get to your question is, your approach to seeking out mentors or, so I think it can be kind of run a gamut between a formal program versus not. I would say if there is a formal program, seize the opportunity. To try to find a mentor or get connected to one, because it really is someone that can become an advocate for you, somebody in your corner, and really that person where you really can have a safe space to say almost pretty much anything you want to say, and be very real. And that's, for me has been invaluable. And so I would say if there's a formal mentor program, raise your hand and seek it. If there's not, I would still ask about it. Ask your people, your human resource function about it. Ask or give feedback to the company that, hey, it'd be great if you guys had a mentorship program. How can I get connected to a mentor? Maybe your supervisor, but raise it up the chain and don't be afraid to do it.
Super helpful. Um, Sort of similarly, a question that just came in. How do you sustain a relationship with intern supervisors? And do interns have to worry about staying memorable for future references? So, for people who are thinking about their future path and how this internship this summer fits in, any advice on that relationship with their supervisors right now?
Yeah, I think there's the simple aspect of having that LinkedIn connection if you're utilizing LinkedIn and that individual is. I think it's also as you're building your relationship with them over the course of the summer, I think you can ask those questions or, moving forward, can we stay connected? May I reach out to you? And I think it's also, just those organic points of opportunity to reach out, as a holiday season, you just want to stay and keep connected, send a nice holiday note, so on and so forth, so that it's not um just out of the blue when you need that reference. I also think there's that opportunity there if it's a leader that is resonating with you and you feel like you're learning a lot from them. See if they will be that mentor for you ongoing. It doesn't need to be someone that works in your company, like Abby was just referencing. It needs to be someone that you can trust and you feel you're going to get honest feedback and guidance from.
Wonderful. Well, in the last few minutes here, just want to thank Melissa, Abby, and Leigh once more for joining us and providing all of this really excellent information about their own personal careers and narratives, and also lots of really great advice for folks as they're considering their current internship and where does that fit into your future winding career path. For some folks that ask questions that we didn't quite get to, again, feel free to reach out. You'll have our contact information, but also just want to plug that we have some events and webinars coming down the pipeline for you all this summer that will continue to respond specifically to some of those questions. So at the end of the summer, we'll have our intern to full-time webinar discussion. So that will be a full in-depth conversation about bringing your internship into a full-time possibility if that's something that you're interested in. And then just once more, want to plug that tomorrow in Freeport at Mass Landing, we'll have a networking specific event. You'll have an opportunity to get a headshot taken, but also a lot of low stakes, high impact networking practice with different employers and supervisors as well as other interns. So lots of tips and tricks there about how to approach folks at networking events. So just two shameless plugs for upcoming events in response to some of those questions. And then just, yeah, a huge thank you to you all for joining us in the middle of your busy days to listen to this conversation. And thanks once more to our panelists for being here and chatting with me.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a good one.